Good afternoon, everybody. I'll call this recommending committee meeting of September 4th, 2007 to order. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
This meeting has been posted in various locations throughout the city. We'll begin with the first item on our agenda, which is Bill number 2007-49. It amends ordinance number 5920 relating to the issuance of the City of Las Vegas, Nevada Special Improvement District number 808 and 810, which is Summerlin Village 23B. Local Improvement and Refunding Bonds, Series 2007, proposed by Mark R. Vincent, Director of Finance and Business Services. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, Mark Vincent, Director of Finance and Business Services. This is a good news item. Typically, when we do special improvement districts, when we initially do them, we were dealing with raw, vacant, unimproved dirt, and we were required to have a certain loan-to-value ratio. And then after a while, that property gets built out, and there's more homes and businesses, and we can then have an opportunity to refinance or refund those bonds and get a lower interest rate for the property owners. So in this case, we're dropping the interest rate from about 7.75% to 5.71%, and that'll mean about a 25% reduction in the annual, semi-annual installments for SID. And so this is a good news story.
Would you be able to do that for interest rates across the valley?
First of all, you have to, in the special improvement district, the issue is based upon what the market will bear on those bonds, because the city does not back, those are not general obligation backed bonds. They're secured solely by the land. And what you've seen here recently is because of the craziness in the credit markets, it's been hard to get money for land deals here recently. But because there's been so much improvement in these two districts and these two villages in Summerlin, that we're able to take advantage of the market situations and go out and refund. We couldn't do this for all the SIDs now.
Okay.
But we're always watching for opportunities, and we take advantage when they present. And this will be about a $10.5 million savings over the term of these SIDs in interest.
That's good news.
That's great.
Do we have anybody in the audience who wishes to ask any questions or ask any more statements? Do we have any more from you, Councilman?
No.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I motion for due pass.
All in favor? Aye. So the motion do passes. The next item on our agenda is Bill number 2007-50. It amends the city zoning regulations to prohibit short-term vacation rentals in any residential zoning district. It's sponsored by Councilwoman Tarkanian and Councilman Steve Wolfson. Val?
Yes, Councilwoman. This bill is in response to some situations that exist in the city throughout the valley where people rent their homes for commercial purposes for use. Transient lodging, basically, other types of situations. What happens, I wanted to provide a little background on our ordinance scheme. We have what's called a cumulative zoning ordinance in large part, and also called an inclusive zoning ordinance. What that means is instead of every zoning district having a list of all the things you can't do and all the things you can do, what it does is it provides, it begins with the most restrictive zone, sets forth the things that you can do in that zone. And as you go into less restrictive zones, typically you can do those same things that you could do in the most restrictive zone, but adds more uses. The exception to that rule is that under most circumstances, commercial and residential don't mix. As you know, you've adopted ordinances now that allow mixed use categories under certain circumstances, but all the rules for how you do that are set forth in those. The inclusive part of our zoning ordinance means that unless something in a zone is specifically allowed, it's prohibited. So what that means is this particular use that's being targeted is already prohibited. In residential zoning districts, you can't make commercial use of your property. But because it's difficult to prove what happens in a residential district, we have taken the step that other local jurisdictions have done and said, not only can you not do it, but we're going to say you can't do it. And we're going to define the use. So the use is defined here is to make property within a residential zoning district not available for commercial use for lodging purposes for a period less than 31 days. What that allows you to do as a homeowner is to rent your property when you move somewhere else and still want to keep it as a rental. You're not in business, you have the right to rent your property. But what you don't have the right to do under this ordinance, and has already existed, is to make it available for commercial use like a transient lodging, like a motel or a hotel. So we are trying to make it easier to prove these cases in court, following the lead of Henderson and Clark County, which have their own versions of this ordinance. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question. How does the ordinances in Clark County as well as Henderson differ from our proposed ordinance?
Henderson uses their table and says this particular use, they call it a short-term vacation rental, is not allowed in residential districts. It calls it out very similarly, commercial use of any residential development for lodging where any individual guest occupies the property for 30 consecutive calendar days or less. And in Clark County, they call their category of use transient commercial use of residential development. They define it similarly. The use of residential development for bed and breakfast, hostel, hotel, inn, lodging, motel, resort, or other transient lodging uses where a transient guest occupies the property for 30 consecutive days or less. And then they prohibit that in all residential zoning districts. So it's a very similar approach. It's just the difference between the way our code is structured and theirs.
I'd like to point out, too, because some questions arose in the media. The fact is that if this is only, and you do have it marked in there, related to residential areas, but the question came up, well, how about downtown where we have some condos mixed with businesses, but those are not residential areas. Those are not zoned residential.
Right.
This just pertains to areas that are zoned residential.
That's correct. And what that means is they either will start with an R in the zoning category or a U, which is undeveloped. But anything that has residential uses but is in on a property that is zoned commercial or industrial or mixed use, this ordinance will not pertain to those properties.
I wanted to clarify that question had arisen. It's really a very simple, straightforward document. We've had ongoing and proliferating problems with short-term rentals in Ward 1 and in Ward 2, and they're increasing throughout all wards. It's amazing. When a couple of years ago I first became aware of them, one on Alta, one on Palomino. The next thing I found out was another one on Campbell, and then we had someone who held a movie screening big-time party, as if you were going to the premiere of a movie that had the big spotlights out there, made it so that people couldn't get into their cul-de-sac to park their own cars or even get in their driveways. And they have proliferated over the internet. They are offering these rentals, and they make it very obvious that it's for big parties and things like that. In my own neighborhood, if any of you read the newspaper and they talked about the sign that was on the back of the van in the garage that the children saw, that was on Campbell. And it's they offer these homes up to $3,500. They like to go into really nice neighborhoods where there are a lot of green trees and things along that line. And this year it spilled over considerably into Ward 2. So this is why we're sponsoring this ordinance. These short-term rentals cause a lot of problems, as I mentioned. They interfere with the normal residential living. Our ordinance, as you mentioned, is based on the county as well as other local jurisdictions. All we're doing is streamlining the law throughout the valley. And the short-term vacation rental means the commercial use of a residential dwelling for lodging for less than 31 days. And it will constitute a misdemeanor, fine not more than $1,000, and not more than 6 months in jail. This does not prevent anybody from renting their home as a regular rental. It's only preventing them from using it as what we term party houses, where they're going out and using the building itself. And usually these are owned by people in other states. The ones we found have been owned by people in California, and they operate out of California. The publication of their advertisements to use these places comes out of California. And it's been hard for us, with the rules we now have, to be able to substantiate and fully cover what we need to do. So that's why we've done this ordinance. I just wanted to clarify a little bit the background. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience? Thank you. Here, take this and we'll look on it together. Did you want to go ahead and speak?
Yes, and I probably don't need a microphone. I can talk clear to the back of the classroom. Jill, did you want to come up? Okay. I'm just going to read this. Our neighborhood group has met. We have a lot of concerns, but we were able to squeeze it on a page and a half. And so we'll just go from that. We
Why don't you
have
have her
a
identify herself for the
understanding
record?
and of course-
Excuse me, Juanita, we know who you are, but you need to identify yourself.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm Juanita Clark, and I'm with Charleston Neighborhood Preservation. The person who signed the paper today is our president, June Ingram, who just missed us by about half an hour, and another board member, Joan Lynch. Dear recommending committee members and all to whom City of Las Vegas, Nevada Bill number 2007-50 concerns. We of Charleston Neighborhood Preservation are adamantly opposed to the addition of E paragraph. Use is expressly prohibited without limiting the general applicability of subsection A of this section. The following uses are expressly prohibited in any residential zoning district short-term vacation rental. In looking it over, we didn't notice that it specified parties only. And again, I guess there's all kinds of parties. We have graduation parties. We had, not in my neighborhood, but in one of my daughter's neighborhoods, we had a party yesterday. So here we have a proposed bill to amend Section 1, Title 19, Chapter 4, Section 80 of the Municipal Code of our City of Las Vegas, Nevada, 1983 edition, which rather than protecting the rights of homeowners, subjugates, even can harass them. Sections 2 through 6 expressly put control of one's property in the hands of government officials. They enumerate impingements which put residents at the mercy of enforcers. This bill, number 2007-50, portends fear, distrust, and apprehension regarding personal property. Yet property owner is never mentioned in this bill. City code currently does not allow short-term rentals. Disturbing the peace and blocking private driveways and closing off a public road are not new issues and are presently addressed. Distressing noise, access to my private residence by a driveway and public road are current protections. Enforcement works. However, for 3 years, and we iterate a few concerns here that could be addressed, and presently, residents in our area are subjected to the reverse gear, ear-piercing beat of Nevada Department of Transportation equipment at late and early morning hours. We have no bench bus stops in nearly turn-degree, in-the-sun sites. We have a 1-mile street made war zone dangerous by city government calming, metal signs, zigzag lines, lane lines, and blocks of cement. We have shoes hanging over utility lines for years, encouraging other talented youth to try their skills. We have sidewalks with unsafe to pedestrian lifts and cracks. We have halfway houses put into our area with no notification. We have reported suspected drug addresses, and those continue to be there. And inaction as we see it. We have homes with such a number of families that illegal immigrants are suspected and no investigation done. We have a city which does not declare being a sanctuary city, but is not training Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officers for Section 285 pertaining to illegal immigrant enforcement. Mr. Anthony Bryant wrote of experiences in another country where surveillance government employees were stationed at the end of each street. How else can this new sections 2, 3, 4, and 5 be effective? Some residents commented, this proposed bill is throwing money down a rat hole, is running interference for the hotel casino industry, can be used to settle a grudge. Who is this bill supposed to impress? And others. Instances have been reported where the reporting person is intimidated by the Las Vegas code enforcement person. Has the cost of this enforcement been determined in cases from other entities? And I guess this would be where obviously a lot of research work does have to be done, and also, of course, there's court costs. To repeat, how can an elected representative of the people claim to be doing that by presenting a bill which blatantly discriminates against the homeowner, one of your main sources of monies? At least we feel like we're one of your main sources of monies. And signed yours truly, June Ingram. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Yes. If you have any questions or...
Did anybody have any questions of June? All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ted, is this on?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, I'm Ted Russell, resident of Las Vegas. Actually, this was very controversial 50 years ago on the resorts in the Jersey coast. And the reason it was controversial is they only had a 3-month season due to the weather of the Northeast. I'm not talking about casino locations. But it was interesting, for example, Cape May had the 30-day, where Sea Isle City didn't. And Cape May was much more of a quality, stable, family city than Sea Isle City was, which was known as a crazy party city. I have reviewed this, I picked this up last week at the city clerk's. It's a really standard bill. It's been used in Henderson and Clark County, and it's also been used in resort areas throughout the nation with success. Doesn't eliminate all problems, but it does make us able to have a strategy to do remedy and abatement on these problems. I mean, the idea of spending a fortune for a house and working both man and wife hard to keep it, and to have a party house across the street while you're trying to raise the children is really grotesque and obscene. And when we're talking parties these days, we're talking about drugs and paraphernalia and probably a degree or two of prostitution. So this is a step in the right direction because we all want a city where we can raise our children. Thank you so much.
Did we have any other comments from the audience? Mr. Barlow, did you have any comments?
No comments. I would like to move for due pass.
All right, I would just like to state very strongly here that I could probably give you a list of 50 names of people who own homes who have called me asking please do something about this problem. The recent was Mrs. Anna Williams, who is right on the border of Ward 2 and Ward 1. And this has been a problem that's been continuing for the last couple of years. We've tried to work it out the best way we could. We feel this is the best way. I agree with what you say, and as a representative of the city, I feel it's most important that I protect the rights of families that buy homes, that work hard to keep homes, maintain their neighborhood integrity. I spoke directly with a gentleman who was walking with his children along a street and saw the van in the party house on Campbell. The garage door was open, the van was in the garage door. If you want a whore, honk your horn. And he did not think that was the most appropriate thing, and by the way, that was probably 1 block away from a school, preschool through grade 7. And so this is something that there has been a great deal of emotion and concern about from numerous citizens, and that's why I sponsored the bill. I'm proud to sponsor the bill, and I know that Councilman Wolfson feels the same way. Yes.
I was wondering, the reason I would call you is because if I called what I presumed was the enforcement.
June, Juanita, could you come up and get on the record?
use the mic, please.
The mic is not to amplify, it's to get your voice into the system.
Yes, Councilwoman, the reason somebody from our group would call you was because we had called what we thought would be the correct department to call, and nothing happened. And so I'm wondering, did that happen? Did they call for disturbance of the peace? Did they call for not being able to get in my driveway or not have access to my street? And then, so they end up, of course, calling our council person.
Right. No, they have done that. They have called the police, and in fact, former Councilman Frank Hawkins and I were out at 1 o'clock in the morning with Metro on Palomino when my knowledge of this first started. And Metro helped us a great deal at that home. They were able to do a sting operation. They were charging admission to the house at the door for what they were doing inside. And also, I've had calls, Metro came to my door personally because I had told them my concern about the party houses in that area, and 2 Metro officers came to my door probably 12:30 one early morning, to talk to me about a party that was going on with 75 cars parked and a lot of noise being related by the neighbors. So they did go to Metro first. And then we discussed with Metro the problem, and this was the way we felt could best help Metro meet the problem.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And Mr. Barlow has made the motion, so I will ask all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion will move on to the City Council. We then come to the next item on the agenda. Excuse me here. Bill number 2007-51, which updates various provisions of the city subdivision and zoning regulations relative to map approvals, site visibility restrictions, and landscape installation and maintenance, sponsored by Councilman Larry Brown.
Yes, Councilwoman, this bill is the result of several years of work, cooperation between Public Works and Planning and Development. It takes into account several state law changes in procedures for preparation and recordation of subdivision and parcel maps, updates those corresponding provisions in ordinance so they comply with state law. It also takes a different approach to site visibility restrictions, making it easier to review and provide input from the departments regarding intersections and making sure that everything is visible at those intersections. It also adjusts some of the landscaping and landscape maintenance provisions of both the subdivision title and the zoning title, and we recommend approval.
Are there any questions from the audience? Oh, you wanted to add something?
No, I'm just here to answer questions.
Oh, okay, letting the audience know he's available to answer questions. And any questions from the audience on this matter? Any questions, Mr. Barlow?
None.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to move for due pass.
All in favor of due pass? Aye. The motion passes. We now come to the audience participation, and anybody to make any comments, please feel free to come and make the comments for us.
My name is Fred Russell, I'm a resident of Las Vegas. This is really an awful lot of work, and it's a really magnificent compilation of consolidation of different areas, but it also somewhat makes our process more effective and less troubled. I know Councilman Larry Brown is very much for this and was very much behind it, but if you spend time going to all the various meetings, you find developers are doing things that are really taking advantage of the planning commission's, let's say, kindness and tolerance. And this is really a a way to keep them more into conformity for the better good of all, and that includes the taxpayers. So I'm really gratified that this has come through, and I look forward to City Council passing that. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? I would like to add one other thing for Juanita Clark, and that is Mr. Tim McGarry had done some close work with licensing too. He's a resident who had a party house near him, and he presented information from Solano Beach and other places in California that have passed similar ordinances. So they have gone directly to the departments involved. Any other comments? Then I move then the meeting is adjourned.